Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. CFL content for the fans, by the fans. And here we are with our review of Week 19 this season, coming very, very close to a close. I'm excited for the playoffs coming up, for what that will mean in terms of, is Saskatchewan going to cross over? Is Hamilton going to take that? How is a bye week going to affect the Bombers and, the Argonauts? So I'm curious about all this, but we're not there quite yet. We got Week 19, but first, before we get into that, we got to talk about today's sponsor, which is BetStamp. Now, BetStamp is not a traditional sports betting website. It does not offer you one money line. It will actually offer you many money lines from a variety of sources and other betting websites. So that way you can make the most for every bet you make. So make sure when you download it from the App Store, or if you use the link in the description below to the website, you will use code CFL Central, so that way they know that you're coming from us and you're saving money. So that way you can make the most out of your bets and get the biggest possible payout instead of whatever just your app will offer you. So thanks again to BetStamp for sponsoring this video. Let's get back into it. First game of the week is the Alouettes versus the Red Blacks. They played the week prior, and Ottawa was actually able to come out victorious. But I predicted that Montreal would bounce back, and they definitely do. But Ottawa gives them a run for their money. The Red Blacks, with the exception of the third quarter, are able to put up consistently at least 6 points each quarter, with a particularly strong first half, scoring 24 points in the first half of this game. Nick Arbuckle got 271 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions for him. So a good game for Nick Arbuckle. All things considered, Ottawa was looking to win at home today, even though necessarily winning isn't as important to them specifically because they're already out of a playoff spot. But I got to imagine that this has got to look good, at least for Red Black fans, in the hopes that next year will be a much better result of the season in general. Just being able to at least see some promising pieces, hopefully you're able to then keep them around. Trevor Harris had an all right game, got 1 touchdown, not bad for him. William Stanback came back, got a touchdown. Didn't have the best average yardage for his runs, only 3.8. However, first game back, it's going to be quite something. But it's nice seeing him healthy again. And that's kind of one thing that I have to... Montreal's got to be hopeful that he's going to get back up to full gear and that he's going to be able to really be a force for them come playoffs, because they're going to need Stanback. They need that running game to really produce the way that it should. Phil Pott had a solid game at receiver, and yeah, it was overall a pretty good game between both teams. Pretty competitive, 34-30, not much you can complain about there. And then our next game of the week was Hamilton versus Calgary. Now, I predicted Hamilton to win this game, and they did. Hamilton third in the East, 6-10, and they are really pushing for that third spot to try to beat out Saskatchewan and get there. And it looks like they're neck and neck right now. So this is going to be this is probably going to be the most exciting part of the season going for until its conclusion, as the Bombers are playing a lot of their backups, keeping Caleros healthy, keeping their other starters healthy. It makes sense. And it's funny because I actually heard a big debate about that, but we'll get to that when we get to the Bomber game later here. And yeah, so Hamilton is able to win this game, gets a field goal in the first, but then are able to put up 11, 10, and 11 points in the second, third, and fourth quarter, respectively. So Hamilton, a little bit of a slow start, still able to put up a field goal, but then can really play some consistent football for the rest of this game. And this is kind of one thing that Hamilton has not had, at least from game to game, was just that good consistency from Dane Evans and from some of the other pieces. And, Calgary's a tough team. They are a tough team. So Hamilton had a bit of a more difficult opponent here to really push forward to try to get that spot, and they are going all in to do it. Wes Hills had a game for the running backs there. Tim White would have a really good game for the receiving core of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Averaged 17.7 with a touchdown to boot. There's nothing to really complain about with that. Reggie Bagleton was able to put up about 62 yards receiving, so not I guess what you'd hope for from a guy like Reggie Bagleton, but it could be worse, I guess. Jake Mayer had a solid game. Problem here, though, is he throws for 3 touchdowns. That's good. But 3 interceptions. Got to be able to reel those in and, ensure that that's not happening, because that's kind of what you look for a lot of times with the quarterbacks, at least here in the CFL, is that touchdown to interception ratio, is that kind of gives you an idea of where they were that game. So Calgary trying to throw the ball quite a bit, trying to get Jake Maier ready and prepped to be the full-time starter as they will eventually get rid of Bo Levi Mitchell, either letting him leave and sign somewhere else or via trade. I think his contract expires at the end of the season. I could be wrong. So if that's the case, he walks. There's no way he resigns. He knows that Maier is going to be replacing him. And honestly, I think that's the right move. Kadeem Carey had an okay game. And it was more of Calgary couldn't quite produce exactly the way they'd hoped. Now, they were able to have some good offense. I mean, they put up 32 points. Let's make sure that's very clear. But they let up 35. So the defense was a bit of the weakness here for Calgary. I guess the weakness here for Hamilton as well. I'm surprised by 2 pretty good defensively teams were able to put up a combined total of 62 points all added up together, so it's quite something. But our next game of the week was the Argonauts versus the Elks. The Elks at home looking for that home victory, gonna keep saying it till it happens, and the Elks get close here against the Argonauts, a difficult opponent, top team in the East. Only 5 points out, only 5-point win for the Argonauts. Elks were trying to get that finally. Cornelius 1 for 1 in touchdowns and interceptions. Not fantastic. Bethel Thompson with another good game. 1 touchdown, averaging 9.8 average throwing yards. 273 on the night. That's not bad, especially for Bethel Thompson. Kevin Brown would definitely be leading the offense here on the Elk side of things. He would get a touchdown, would run for 121 yards. Probably the best game I've seen by a running back for the Elks this season. So it's good. Like I said, for Elks kind of in the similar boat as Ottawa, hoping to see some good performances, so that way those good performances now turn into some great performances either next season or the season following, provided they're able to keep their talent. Darrell Walker would have a solid game at receiving, would average 16.3 yards per carry, but no touchdown, sadly, for him. Edmonton had a pretty strong start of the game, came out slow in the start of the second half, third quarter, but were able to recoup a little bit in the fourth quarter, but it was that second half of the game where the Argonauts took control of things. Only put up 6 points in the entire first half of this game, put up the other 22 with 16 in the fourth quarter. Edmonton, you gotta hold on to that. But it is what it is. Edmonton, at least getting close. Someday they'll get one. I'm just not sure when. And our last game of the week was the Winnipeg Blue Bombers versus the BC Lions. BC Lions will win this game. Now, with the Bombers, this will be the first game that Caleros has not started this season. Drew Brown would start this game, and wow, what a performance for Drew Brown. So Drew Brown would throw 2 interceptions. He would. 3 touchdowns. 325 yards for a second, or according to some, a third-string quarterback. Fantastic performance by Drew Brown, even though they weren't able to get the victory. Vernon Adams Jr. had a solid game. James Butler as well. The entire BC offense overall did pretty well, as it was very well-rounded. We didn't, I guess, have any standout performances, but just a lot of really good ones. If there's going to be any standout performance, it would probably be James Butler running 104 yards up through the center. They were really doing the run straight up the middle. The offensive linemen for the Lions they are the stars of this game. Let's be real here. The linemen, offensive and defense for the Lions, won them this game. The BC Lions offensive line were perfect at wedging themselves in the D-line and splitting them wide, and then they'd have a lead blocker go through, block, because we weren't playing Big Hill for a bit, block one of our linebackers, and they were just shoving it up the middle, and that worked for at least 3/4 of this game, and they were just doing an excellent job at it. The BC Lions defensive line was able to constantly put pressure on Drew Brown because they know Drew Brown can't quite scramble like Caleros. Now, Drew Brown, this is one part where he really excelled this game, where in the past, when the pocket collapsed, he kind of collapsed with it. This game, he really, it shows that he's learned from Caleros at least a bit about scrambling. He was able to make some moves outside the pocket and still make a play out of it. Sometimes catch wouldn't always be there, but being able to at least get out and get an opportunity with that will come in time. So a great game for Drew Brown, great game for the Lions overall. Bombers would lose this one, but as a Bomber fan, I'm not too bummed. I'm more or less really happy to see a guy like Drew Brown really putting up a strong performance. Heaven forbid we actually have to play him as a starting quarterback, but it's just nice seeing some promise in the system. So overall, it was a pretty good week of football. I want to know what you guys thought of this in the comment section down below. Make sure to come along for my Week 20 preview, and I'll see you guys next time.